Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Larita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. All right, so today we are going to talk about Bhishma Dev. So we have all heard the name of Bhishma Pitama. We are very familiar with this name and we're very familiar with the pastimes also. So we'll try to do something about his previous birth, which is known but not that known. Okay, so we will first understand what exactly Bhishma Ashtami is. Bhishma Ashtami is the day of the appearance of Bhishma Dev, and Makar Sankranti was the day of his disappearance. So we had recently had celebration for both. So there's a verse in the scriptures which talk about how great Bhishma Deva is, and that is the verse which describes the names of all the 12 Mahajans. So it goes as Swayambhur Narada Shambhu, Kumara Kapilo Manu, Prahalado Janaka Bhishmo, Balir Vesaikir Vayam. So Swayambhur is Lord Brahma. Swam means from himself. There's no other parent to him, basically. He's self-born in the sense he doesn't need a mother. So he comes from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know that. So Narada, we know Narad Muni. Shambhu is the another name of Lord Shiva. Kumara are the 4 Kumaras he's talking about. Kapila, Kapil Muni, the son of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. Manu is the Swayambhu Manu. That is, Swayambhur is the one who appears by himself, like he doesn't need a mother. That is Lord Brahma. And Manu is the Swayambhu Manu, that's the son of Lord Brahma. Prahalado is Prahalad Maharaj. Janak, we know Janak Maharaj. Bhishma, here comes Bhishma. That is Bhishma Dev. Bali Maharaj. Vaisakir is Shukdev Goswami. And Vayam. Vayam is the person who's speaking this word, that is Yamaraj. That is the I means Yama, because he's speaking the verse. So these are the 12 Mahajans. And who are the Mahajans? The word Mahajan itself says Maha means great, Jana means personality. So these are the 12 great personalities. Okay. Now, one of these 12 great personalities is Bhishma Dev, and we are going to talk about him. So Bhishma Dev, basically, he was here, he appeared as the son of King Shantanu and Ganga Devi. Okay, so actually what happened, let's go back to his birth. In the previous kalpa, basically there was a king by the name of Mahabhish, and after he left, after his death, basically he attained Vishnu Lok. So one day he went to visit Lord Brahma in Satyalok, and Ganga Devi was also present there, and there was a nice assembly going on, get together of the Devas. And what happened was Ganga Devi and Mahabhish, these two were very attracted to each other in that assembly, and they were looking at each other, not caring about the presence of other great personalities. And this was noticed by Lord Brahma, which was not approved by him. So he told them that you both have no control over your senses. You're behaving like humans. Go and be born on the mortal planet. So may you be born in the material world. So both of them were obviously not happy, because who wants to leave higher planetary regions to come in the material world? So they both sought forgiveness. And Lord Brahma said to Ganga Devi that it's okay. You will be, when you appear on the planet Earth, you will have a purpose, and that is you will give birth to the Ashtavasus. And once you are done with this, pastime, then you will come back to heaven. So she said, okay, no other choice. So she was born in the material world, and she was, river personification of river, Ganga Devi. So as a river, she was spending her days in the forest near Ganga river valleys. Okay, that's where she was. Now what happened, there was another ruler of the lunar dynasty by the name of Pratipa. Pratipa had no child, and he went to these river valleys to do tapasya. So Ganga Devi didn't know. I mean, she knew that she was supposed to get married to Mahabhish, but then she didn't know that how would Mahabhish appear on this planet. So the king, the Pratipa king who came, she saw him. He was the one who was doing tapasya on her, on the Ganges, on the banks of the river, and she approached him to get married, because she just wanted to be done with her pastime in this planet and go back. So she saw him absorbed in tapasya, and she went and she sat next to his right thigh, and she expressed her desire to marry him. But Pratipa king was childless, and he was performing a tapasya to have a child, and he was very particular with the Vedic system, in the sense he knew about the rituals and all the intricacies of the Vedas. And he said, my dear, he was talking to Ganga Devi, that my dear Ganga Devi, the right side is a place for the daughter-in-law, and since you're sitting on the right side of my thigh, so this means that you will be getting married to my son. And that's what he had come there for anyway, to pray for, to do tapasya for being childless, and he wanted to have a child, for having a child. So then it so happened that he had a son in due course of time, who was Mahabhish, the same king who fell in love with Ganga Devi when they were in the assembly of Lord Brahma. And that time, with Ganga Devi, she was there and, waiting. And then Shantanu was born. Mahabhish was born as Shantanu to King Pratipa. And then with due course of time, Shantanu grew, and then he came to the valleys, the Ganga Valley one day, and he saw the personification of Ganga. That's when, because that time Ganga Devi felt some attraction for him, and then she realized that this is the same king from the previous birth. So they both desired to get married to each other. But Ganga Devi did not forget her, purpose of coming. So she told Shantanu, when Shantanu proposed her and desired to marry her, she said, okay, I will do so, but on a condition. The condition would be that you will not question me whatever I do. Whatsoever I do, you're not going to question me. The day you question me, I am going to go out of your life. So Shantanu at that point of time didn't think that she's going to do anything so drastic that he wouldn't be able to question her. And he was very attracted to her, and he just gave, and he said, okay, sure, whatever you want, but just get married to me. Now, meanwhile, what was happening when this all was happening up there, and again in the higher planetary regions, there was a Vasu by the name of Prabhas. So who are these Vasus? Vasus are generally people, the personalities who help in managing the universal affairs. So who are they? So Lord Indra has a brother by the name of Dharma Devata. These Vasus are his sons. They are 8 in number. The Vasus are 8, Asht Vasus. So they're 8 brothers, son of Dharma Devata, who is the brother of Lord Indra. Okay, they help in managing the universal affairs. Now, youngest of these 8 Vasus is Prabhas. So one day, there also all these munis and the brahmanas, they would welcome the guests who would be near their cottage or in their area. So at that time, one time, what happened was these Vashisht Muni, they were near the area of Vashisht, cottage of Vashisht Muni, these 8 Vasus, and Vashisht Muni invited them in for, prasadam. So all these 8 Vasus, along with their wives, went inside to honor prasadam. But they were surprised. Lo and behold, there was like 56 variety of prasadam. And they were thinking, he's a sage. How can he have such opulent prasadam and preparations for us? So anyway, they thoroughly enjoyed prasadam. And while they were leaving, when they left, Prabhas's, they actually asked the sage Vashisht that we have a question. You are a sage, but you are treating us like kings. How is it that all the preparations are so opulent here? What is the cause behind it? So Vashisht Muni told them that I have a cow who is a desire-fulfilling cow, Kamdhenu. Kamdhenu is the title. So she was the daughter of Kamadhenu by the name of Nandini. And that cow was the desire-fulfilling cow. And obviously, whatever Vashisht Muni would ask, she would provide. So they were very happy that, okay, nice. And they, enjoyed. And they left. Now, when they were going back, Prabhas's wife was very attracted by Nandini and she desired to have her. So she told Prabhas that, I don't know, you have to get me that cow. So Prabhas said, but my dear wife, we do not take from sadhus. We give to sadhus. That is the custom. She said, I don't care about your custom. I want Nandini, period. So Prabhas was like, okay, so be it. She was just not ready to listen. So Prabhas went to his brothers and they all together plotted a plan. And the plan was that they are going to steal Nandini at night time. So this was the plan, that they're going to steal. Now, at night, when they all went inside the hut and the cottage of Vashisht Muni to steal Nandini, they had just loosened the rope of the cow and the cow started shouting. Vashisht Muni heard that plea of the cow and came running, and he saw that they were trying to steal Nandini. So Vashisht Muni was very angry. He got so upset. He looked at the Vasus and he said, what are you doing? You people are stealing my cow out of jealousy. These are the qualities of human beings. You're not behaving like devatas. You are behaving this comparison, this jealousy. This all is the attitude of mortal living beings. May you be born in the material world. So he cursed them. Now all the Vasus got really worried. They were like, this is not what we wanted. Please forgive us. And they seeked forgiveness. But Vashisht Muni was really upset. He was not upset. He was actually hurt seeing the qualities of these Vasus who were living in the higher planetary regions, and the qualities they were carrying were of lower planetary regions. So that is what was bothering him. And he said, okay, I cannot take the curse back now once it is out. But yes, I can reduce the duration. So for that, I will give you, he himself gave them the solution that go to Mother Ganga and seek her help. She will help you. So all I mean, even though he had cursed them, he said, okay, I'm going to reduce it that you will come back to your original position as Vasu soon. You will not have to stay longer in the material world, except for Prabhas. I can forgive everyone but Prabhas, because Prabhas is the one who plotted all this, and he will have to bear the consequences. So they were like, okay. Now when they went to Ganga Devi, at that time, Ganga Devi was already told by Brahma that she will give birth to Vasus and then come back. So when these Vasus, they went to Ganga Devi and they told Ganga Devi that we really need your help. We've been cursed to be born in the material world. But at the same time, after seeking forgiveness, we've been given this boon that our duration is not going to be long. Can you please help us in this regard? Please drown us the moment we are born. And we are told that we'll be born of you. So Ganga Devi said, okay, if that's what you want, I'm going, because she also wanted to come back. So she said, okay, I'll do that. As soon as I give birth to you, I'm going to drown you all. So now this is what Ganga Devi was supposed to do as a favor to Ashtavasus, but then this is something she could not tell Shantanu. So that is why she asked King Shantanu not to question her. So when now Ganga Devi, and on this condition they got married, right? So now Ganga Devi and Shantanu got married. They were very happy. Shantanu was in bliss and he got the wife that he wanted. Ganga Devi was also happy. Now the time came for the first child. Now the first child was born. Shantanu was on the 9th cloud. He, to have a boy for a king meant that he's giving the heir, this was like there's somebody to carry forward the dynasty. So that is what he wanted. So he was very, very happy that he got the first child as a son. Now the problem was Ganga Devi quickly came running and she said, can I just see the baby? Shantanu was very happy holding the baby and he said, oh, sure, you're the mother, go ahead. She took the child, she ran to the river and she threw the child in the river, literally. Shantanu was shocked. He was like, but he could not question. He knew that he had made a promise. Had he questioned Ganga Devi, she would have left. And he was extremely attached to Ganga Devi, so he didn't say anything. But then again, the second child appeared. She did the same. Shantanu was in a state of shock. What is going on? Third child, same thing. Shantanu was thinking, what kind of a mother is she? But still the attachment to his wife was still very strong. Fourth child gone, fifth gone, sixth gone, seventh gone in the same way. Now the eighth was born and Shantanu was like, you want to leave? So be it. But I am going to question you. Tell me, why are you doing this and why have you been doing this? Ganga Devi just smiled and she said, okay. Then she revealed the past time that I was supposed to do this. This is what happened. You were Mahabhish king and I'm Ganga Devi personification. I was there in the Brahma's assembly, Lord Brahma's assembly, and we got attracted and this is how we were cursed and I was supposed to give birth to these Ashtavasus and drown them. But now that you have questioned me, this is the 8th Vasu, the 8th child. I will not drown this child, but I will take this child with me. I told you I'll go. Once you question me, you question me. So my time is up with you and I am going. So Shantanu said, okay, you want to go, but my child stays with me. So she said, no, that's not happening. The child goes with me. I'm going to take this child to Devalok There I am going to teach, there I'm going to make sure that he is taught by um, Parshuram in Shastra Vidya, Shukracharya and Brahaspati in Niti Vidya, and all other sages will give him knowledge in different fields. So he is going with me. So then she took her child and she left. And there in Devalok, he was, for 16 years, he was given the education in all different areas, all different fields, and he became very, very smart, learned, and, worth being the king of a place. And he was given the name Devarata. Why Devarata? Because he was born, he was taken care by devas in that area. So somebody who had all the qualities of um, devas. Also, the vows that devas take, are very, very, very. So they don't just make a promise and not live up to it. So their vows are very strong. So they were brother like that. He was very pakka in what he was doing. Now, after so many years, now that he was well trained, Ganga Devi brought him back. And there one day, Shantanu, he was again in the forest going around and for hunting. So he heard some noise and he went to see what was going on. And there was this young, handsome young man who was trying to stop the flow of river Ganges. And he was amazed that nobody messes with Ganga Devi. Who is this child? So he was just looking and admiring, and somehow deep in his heart, he was thinking about his own child, and he was thinking that had he been, with me, he would have been the same age. So powerful, so princely. And there appeared Ganga Devi, and she told him that this is your child, Devavrat. He was so happy to know that, to learn that. He hugged him, he embraced him, he told him, come with me. And he took his child to the palace. And there he was appointed the heir apparent. That means he would be the future king. Okay, this was his position when he went back with Shantanu to the palace. So that, the time was going by. One day Shantanu went hunting. Now he went hunting and he was busy admiring the beauty of the forest. And suddenly he could smell something beautiful, the smell of musk. And it drew his attention, and he started following the smell, that where is this wonderful, fragrance rather coming from. So till 1 yojana, that's a distance, he covered that distance, and he reached the cottage from where he could, get the fragrance. He was able to smell the fragrance of musk from that particular cottage. And inside the cottage was Satyavati. Satyavati basically, and the smell was coming from her. So she was, so this king saw Satyavati, and he fell in love with her. Love at first sight. Now he wanted to marry her. So how did she get this name is another story. So once what happened was, so Satyavati basically was found by a fisherman where in the stomach of a fish. So she used to smell like fish. It was to the extent that she was named Matsya Gandha. Matsya means fish, Gandha means smell. So somebody who smells like Matsya, like fish. And this smell also was could be smelled from a distance of 1 yojan, that it was that strong. She was very pretty, amazingly beautiful, and everything was good about her. But the smell was obviously, it's not a pleasant smell. So then But she was, this was this fisherman who had found her. So she was helping her father carry passengers on the ferry boat from one end of the sea to another, one end of the river to another. Okay. So one time, one of such tourists, one of such people, passengers was Parshuram Muni. Now, Parshuram Muni was, so not Parshuram, sorry, Parashar Muni. So Parashar Muni was the one who sat in the boat, and it was a divine arrangement. Parashar Muni was given this vision that he is supposed to have a child with Satyavati, who is going to be the literary incarnation of the Lord. So it's not that he was attracted to her, or it was not that out of lust he wanted to have a child with her, but this was a vision that was given to him, and he shared that vision with Satyavati. And Satyavati, being very young, naive, and vulnerable, she said, no, this is not possible. I'm not married. I cannot do this. So he said, this is divine arrangement. Don't worry. Nothing is going to happen to you. No, you won't have a bad name or anything. I'll make sure that you still remain maiden. So by divine arrangement, at that particular time, they were on the island and she had a child. That child was named Krishna Dwepayan Vyas. Why Krishna? Because he was dark. Dwepayan means dweep. He was born on the island. Vyas was the literary incarnation of the Lord. That's the name that was given to him. So that is the Vyasadev who appeared. The moment he appeared, he was literary incarnation of the Lord. So it's not that she had to raise him as a child or whatever. He just got up and he walked away, and he told his mother that I have a lot of work to do. I am going, but my promise to you is that whenever you think of me, I am going to appear that very moment. So this happened. And what happened during this time was, because she was not willing to have a child with Parashar Muni, Parashar Muni told her that if you agree to this divine arrangement, I will make sure that this smell of the fish is, it is taken away from you, and I'll give you the smell of a musk. So this was not a bribe, but just a thank you, a way of him saying thank you to be part of this divine arrangement. So then from Matsya Gandha, she became Yojan Gandha. Earlier it was the Matsya smell, but now it was the smell of the musk that was coming from her for one Yojan, and that's how she was named Yojan Gandha. So anyway, so this smell, this fragrance of musk is what drew Shantanu to the cottage. Now, when he saw Satyavati, as we discussed, she was very pretty, very beautiful. So obviously, he fell in love with her, and he just right there, he proposed that I want to marry you. And she said, you'll have to talk to my father. Now, when the fisherman came, the fisherman was very smart. So he said that, so he rejected the proposal. Based on what? He said, my dear king, it is a great fortune that you want to marry my daughter. But the problem is that you already have a son, because by then everybody knew about Deva Brata. So he said, you have a son, and the heir to your throne is going to be him and his sons. Then what benefit is my daughter going to reap from getting married to you? This was very, very smart of the fisherman. Nobody thought like that. So Shantanu said, well, so what do you want me to do? So he said, I want you to promise me that the son born of my child, my daughter, is going to be the heir of your throne. So he said, but that's not possible. I mean, Devabrata is the first, my eldest son. He is my first child, and he is right now the heir apparent. And to deny kingship to him and his sons would be improper. I cannot do this. He was thinking, in his own mind. And because he could not reach to any solution, he left. He left and he went back to his palace. Now he was very sad, very gloomy. He was avoiding company, not talking to him, anybody. He was so depressed. He was just in his own room. So now Devavrata found out, he found that something is wrong with my father. So he wanted to find out that what exactly is the reason. So he asked the ministers around him, and the ministers told him that, so and so has put this condition in front of your father. He wants to marry Satyavati, but Satyavati's father wants Satyavati's child to be the king and not you. So your father cannot make a decision, and that is why he sat. So this Devavrata said, really? This is the reason? He went to Satyavati's cottage and he begged her father for agreeing to get married, get Satyavati married to his father, Shantanu. And he said, if this is what you're worried about, that my children are going to be the king, so I vow not to marry anyone. Now this fisherman was still not happy. He said, okay, if you say so that you will not marry, so maybe you won't have a child, but what about if you play politics and you tell other kings to attack Hastinapur and take over the kingdom, and then you take over that kingdom? You can do any dirty politics you want to. So then Devavrat said, well, in that case, I take another vow that I will always be loyal to the throne of Hastinapur. And when he said that, this was such a strong vow, Bhishma, it's called Bhishma. The demigods from above started shouting, Bhishma, Bhishma, Bhishma. And that's how he got the name Bhishma. Bhishma means something which is very, it was a very solemn oath that he took, very, very strong vow that he took. So, Drada Vrata is what it is, solemn oath. So that is how he was known, Bhishma Pitama. Because in those days, it was the Varnashram system that was being followed in a very proper way. And Bhishma being a Kshatriya, and for a Kshatriya not to get married was a big thing. I mean, Kshatriya, any of these kings, they used to have more than one wife, just so that, mostly so that they could have a son, so that the dynasty would run in that lineage and stuff like that. But here, Bhishma Pitama voluntarily decided not to get married, just so that King Shantanu could get married to Satyavati. And he took the vow of being very loyal to the throne. Now, when the king found out that Devavrata, who was Bhishma, had taken this vow, he had taken such a Bhishma vow, so he called him Bhishma Dev, and he also gave him the boon to die only when he wanted. That is Ichha Mrityu. That was the boon that was given to Bhishma Dev by his father Shantanu. So like that, again, time was going by, and Shantanu and Satyavati, they had two children, Chitrangda and Vichitravirya. So Chitrangda was the one who died even before he got married. And Vichitravirya, he died childless. He had no child. Now, but before that, Vichitravirya, he was a spoiled child, as you say, but Bhishma Pitama was taking care of the throne. So Satyavati was very worried as to who's going to be the next heir. So she wanted Vichitravirya to get married. So for that sake, Bhishma Pitama, and Vichitravirya didn't have the ability to win any wife, because in those days there used to be swamvar where the king who wanted to marry the girl had to show his might by winning her over other kings, And that Bhishma did for Vichitravirya. So he got the three sisters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, like this, and Ambalika and Ambika, that they were fine, but Amba had already lost her heart to Shalva, another king, Shalva, by the name Shalva. But still, that time when Bhishma was, getting them, that time she didn't say a word. So they all came to the palace. And in that assembly, Shalva was also present, and Shalva was defeated by Bhishma Dev. So it was a big blow on his ego. But now, when Amba, coming to the palace, told Bhishma Dev that I cannot get married to Vichitravirya because I've lost my heart to Shalva. So Bhishma Dev said, okay, so be it. You go back to Shalva. And, with full respect, they took her back to Shalva, but Shalva completely rejected her. Shalva said that, no, I cannot, because he has won you over me. He's fought me and I've lost you. So I cannot accept you back. So Amba was very frustrated. She was very sad. She was like, the guy who kidnapped me doesn't want to get married to me. Okay, now she went back to, so when she went back to Bhishma and she said, okay, now Shalva has rejected me because you won over me, so you marry me. Bhishma said, I cannot get married to you. What do you mean? I've taken a vow to remain celibate all my life. Amba said, no, this is just pure injustice. You kidnapped me, so you will have to marry me. Bhishma said, no, not possible. So she went to Bhishma's guru, Parshuram, to complain. And Parshuram called in for Bhishma and he told Bhishma that you better get married to her. This is not right. So Bhishma said, but my dear spiritual master, I cannot do that. I have taken a vow of observing brahmacharya all my life. So he said, in that case, you're arguing with your spiritual master, you fight with me. They both fought. Now, Parshuram is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's his incarnation. How can he fight Bhishma Dev? Because Bhishma Dev is his own student. And how can Bhishma win over Parshuram? Because Parshuram is incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So this war was going on. Finally, nobody won. So now Parshuram then told Amba to take shelter of Lord Shiva. She went and she worshipped Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva then told her that I bless you, that you will be the cause of death of Bhishma Pitama. Okay, so this chapter closed. This chapter was on halt. Now, coming back to Ambika and Ambalika. Now, Ambika and Ambalika. So now Vichitravirya died. He died, but childless, So Ambika and Ambalika, they didn't know what to do. And so did Shantanu. Shantanu was no more. Satyavati called in for Bhishma Dev and she said, this is such a big kingdom. And who's going to run the kingdom? We don't have a child, an heir to the kingdom. So Bhishma Dev said, mother, tell me what to do. So Satyavati said that actually I have a son. Then she narrated the pastime of Parashar Muni and how she had Vyasadeva. And Bhishma Pitama said, nothing like it. Please call for him and let him decide what is to be done. That's the best thing, that best news, because I'm not getting married for sure. So then Satyavati called in for Vyasadeva. Now Vyasadeva came, he was doing tapasya. So he wasn't the most good-looking person at that point of time. He had all this beard and very grave looks because he was so absorbed in his tapasya. And he told his mother Satyavati that give me some time. No woman would want to marry me at this point of time because I look so absorbed in my tapasya. I don't look appealing at all. Satyavati said, no, we don't have time. We need an heir now. So he said, okay. So then when Ambika and Vyasadeva Ambika was taken to Vyasadeva, and Ambika thought that Ambika was very scared the moment she saw Vyasadeva, and she just closed her eyes. Now, because she closed her eyes, Vyasadeva told her that I will bless you with the son, but the child is going to be blind. So then appeared Dhritarashtra. From her appeared Dhritarashtra. Then Ambalika, when she was taken to Vyasadeva, she got very pale, very nervous, very she lost her color completely. And Vyasadeva saw that, and she said, okay, he said, I'm going to bless you with a child who's going to be very pale. That means, he won't live long, not with long immunity. So came Pandu, King Pandu. Now, both of them were not the appropriate heirs for a kingdom. You cannot have a blind king, and you cannot have a king who's not going to live long. What do you do? So then a maid servant was also taken to Vyasadeva, and she was very respectful to him. She did not close her eyes. She touched his lotus feet, and she was blessed with the most intelligent child, which was Vidura. Now Vidura obviously could not become the king because he was the son of a maid servant. Dhritarashtra was blind, and Pandu was short-lived. Now what to do? So for the time being, they made Pandu the king. Now Pandu went to then Pandu ended up getting married to Kunti and Madari, two of his wives. With his wives, he went to jungle, in the forest, and that this was the curse. So what happened was, in the forest one day he was hunting, and when he shot his arrow on a sage who was in the form of a deer with his wife, they cursed him that the moment you get close to your wife, you are going to die. So now they didn't have any children. So now, because Kunti Maharani was given a blessing when she was young, and when she was given the charge of taking care of the guests in the house, she welcomed Durvasa Muni, who was very hard to please, but she somehow won over his heart and pleased him, and treated him as a wonderful guest, and he in turn blessed her to have the audience of any of the devas she wanted, who would bless her with a child. At that time she was very young. She didn't even realize what that boon actually meant. And one fine day, just out of curiosity, she called in for Lord Sun, Sun God. And Sun God blessed her with a son by the name of Karan. And she was in a state of shock. She just didn't know, because she was very young. She didn't know what to do, because this would blaspheme her and his father's name. So she put the child in a basket, and she let the basket go in the river. That's how Karan's appearance happened. And he was born with kavach and kundal, earrings and an armor for his protection, which were a blessing for him from his father, the sun god. Now she had this benediction, and this is the boon which she, when King Pandu discussed what had happened in the jungle, and how the sage and the wife were killed, and how he was scourged. So he was very worried as to what is going to happen, because Dhritarashtra was already blind. So then Kunti Devi discussed about this boon, and he was very happy. And then we know how the 5 Pandavas appeared, and then we know how Dhritarashtra had 100 sons. This is a very nice and long pastime. We can go on and on. Mahabharata cannot be discussed in one class for sure. But coming back to Bhishma Dev. So when all this was going on, so much was going on, and then we know how the Pandavas were treated, and how Bhishma Dev was always their protector, and Bhishma Dev, he considered them to be obviously his grandchildren, and that's how he treated them. And they also very, very, very much fond of Bhishma Dev. Now came the time of battle of Kurukshetra, when Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Now, after the battle, what we cannot get into those pastimes, they're really interesting, but we'll have to skip and come back to Bhishma Pitama. Okay. So now there came a time in the battlefield when Duryodhan was very upset with Bhishma Dev. He said, we have you and we are losing. That means you're not fighting, from your heart, because you are very partial with to the Pandavas. So Bhishma Dev was very upset with these words, and he said, wow, tomorrow morning I am going to kill all those Pandavas. And he, said prayers to 5 arrows. And Duryodhan, he was so doubtful of Bhishma Dev that he said, give me those 5 arrows, I'll give you tomorrow morning. Krishna knows everything. So when this thing happened, the arrows came to Duryodhan. Krishna told Arjuna, go and get those arrows from Duryodhan. So Arjuna said, why will he give it to me? So he said, you remember once you had saved him from the attack of Gandharvas, and he said that I'll give you any boon, whatever you want. And you never asked for a boon. In response to that boon, go and get the arrows. So he went and he got the arrows. Bhishma Dev found out. He was very upset, and he knew it was Krishna's doing. So he said, okay, now Krishna, now this was Bhishma, he was very firm with his vows and everything. He said, now I vow, because Krishna made me break my vow, I am going to make him break his vow, or I'm going to kill the Pandavas. He was very fierce the next day in his fighting, and Arjun was almost about to lose his life. That is when Krishna intervened, and he didn't even wait to call for Sudarshan Chakra. He took the chakra of the wheelchair, of the wheel of the this chariot, and he aimed at Bhishma Dev, and his vow was Krishna's vow was that he's not going to pick up any weapon, but he did, just to protect his devotee Arjuna. And Bhishma Dev was so happy. And though he did not throw the wheel at Bhishma Dev, and last time we discussed that was the wheel which he threw, and the place where it landed was Eka Chakra, where Nityanand Prabhu appeared. So anyway, coming back to Bhishma Dev. So now Bhishma Dev was very happy that he made Krishna break his vow. So then the battle continued, and in the end, the Pandavas won, and Bhishma Pitama was on the bed of arrows made by Arjuna. So this was very heartbreaking for the Pandavas. And then the episode of Uttara happened when King, he was coronated, the King Yudhishthir, and everyone was happy, and Krishna was about to leave for Dwarka, and then Uttara came, and Uttara said, please, go and save my child. And then Krishna took the form, a very small, tiny form, thumb size, and went inside the womb of Uttara and protected Maharaj Parikshit. Now, after this, it was Krishna's arrangement, divine arrangement, his arrangement totally, that Yudhishthir lost all composure. He said, what have I done? He was happy till now. Okay, everything was good. Battle was okay. But because Krishna wanted to give mercy to his devotee, Bhishma Dev, he made this thing happen, that now Yudhishthir lost his total composure. And he said, I have messed up. I mean, just for my own sense gratification, I want to sit on the throne. I led to the death of so many people. I am not sitting on the throne. Everybody started talking to him, explaining to him, but no, he was just not ready to listen. He was not ready to listen to Krishna, because Krishna didn't want that. Okay, not that Krishna could not console him, but Krishna at that particular time wanted to glorify Bhishma Dev. So he said, okay, Yudhishthir, let's go to Bhishma Dev, and he is going to train you in Rajniti. So then he went, and Krishna told him that you, all 5 Pandavas, dress up very nicely. Now, when somebody is about to leave the body, or when we go to, in such sad or mourning places, we don't go all dressed up. We're not happy about it. But Krishna said, no, all of you wear your best clothes. Why? Because Bhishma Pitama knew that, he wanted the Pandavas to be the king, and now when they were about to be the king, and actually were now, he wanted to see them in that kingly manner. He wanted, that would have given him pleasure, because all his life he had seen Pandavas struggling and, trying to fight with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra all the time. And they just didn't get what they deserved. And that, knowing that it was wrong, because he had vowed to always side the throne of Hastinapur, he could do nothing. And he was very upset. And so now, when it was time for him to leave, being such a great devotee of the Lord wanted to fulfill his desire. So Bhishma's desire was to see Pandavas happy and well settled. And that's how Krishna took them to the battlefield. Now, when they reached the battlefield, actually, Krishna did not, this time also, Krishna did not sit on the chariot. He was still the chariot driver, when he was taking these Pandavas to battlefield. Why? Because Krishna knew that Bhishma Pitama loved the image, in the battlefield where Krishna was driving the chariot of Arjuna. He loved him as Parth Sathi. That image he really loved. He wanted, before Bhishma Dev parted, that's the image he wanted him to see again. So he again became the chariot driver for them and took them to the battlefield. And then we know that Bhishma Pitama gave the whole set of instructions to Yudhishthir how to rule the kingdom, and how many things, what to take care of, what not to take care of, and all the, basically how to be a just ruler. All these instructions were given to Yudhishthir Maharaj, and then he was very thirsty, and then Arjuna asked for water in a golden pot, and Bhishma Dev said, no, I won't drink water from a golden pot. You give me natural water. That's where he shot the arrow in the ground, and Mother Ganges appeared through that water, and that water which was drunk by Bhishma Dev. And then looking at Krishna, and at the right time, which was Uttarayan, that is the northern position of the sun, which was very auspicious. That's when he left. But the point here, important point, Uttarayan is not only the direction or the position of the sun or the auspicious moment. He was not waiting for that. Bhishma Dev didn't have to wait for that. He was waiting for Uttarayan, means the one who took the shelter of Uttara. So Krishna, as to protect the son of Uttara, that is Maharaj Parikshit, he did take the shelter of the womb of Uttara for some time to protect Maharaj Parikshit. So what was Bhishma Dev actually waiting was for Uttarayan, not the auspicious moment, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how Bhishma Pitama left. And the most important lesson that we have to learn from this is, so you see, just see that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was with Pandavas all their life. But at the fag end of their life, he was with Bhishma Pitama. Bhishma Pitama was the grandfather, Pandavas were the grandsons. So similarly, if you see Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimhadev appeared for Prahlad Maharaj, and Vamandev appeared for the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. Similarly, if you see, it was Arjuna's illusion. Because of Arjuna's illusion, who was the grandfather, Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And it was for the deliverance of Maharaj Parikshit that Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. So this is a very interesting grandfather and grandchildren relationship, and the Lord was present all the time. In our case, it is Srila Prabhupada, our grandfather. We are his grand disciples. And we, being in this material world, Srila Prabhupada, by creating Krishna consciousness, the ISKCON movement, he gave us a little spiritual world inside this material world. But if we don't follow the four regulative principles, if we do not stop doing Vaishnava Prad, if we do not take care of our anarthas, lust, anger, greed, jealousy, we are going to create again a material world in the spiritual world that Srila Prabhupada gave us. So we really need to work on our sadhana, on our japa, so that we don't give a bad name to Srila Prabhupada. So on this note, I would like to end. Jai Srila Prabhupada. If anybody has anything to say, we can discuss. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for a very, very wonderful nectarian class, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. So, kids, if you have any questions, so we can go ahead. Otherwise, we have another class in 2 minutes. So, if anybody have any question, please ask to Mataji. Okay, so Mataji, as of now, I just think there is no more questions. So we can wind up.
Sure,
And
ma'am.